in 2010, there was a young boy who was 15 and he was playing football against the school's rival team. But he actually didn't end up playing. He had unexplainable stomach pain. And then after the game, he ended up running towards his mom. And they went home, but then ended up rushing to the ER, where the doctors wanted to do an emergency gallbladder removal. One doctor decided to not do this because he thought there was an underlying problem and sent the boy to Children's Hospital in Milwaukee, where he turned into a house case. They ran numerous tests and couldn't find out what was wrong with him, and he kept getting sicker and sicker. Around 3 a.m. in the morning, one doctor decided to test his heart function and found out the underlying problem. He was diagnosed with viral dilated cardiomyopathy, which means half his heart was not working. So he ended up going on the transplant list, so the top of the list in the entire nation, and after about 2 weeks, he was found a heart. On June 8th, 2010, the boy received his heart from a donor named RJ. This boy is my brother. His name is Chris. Chris lives his life every day in honor of his donor RJ. Chris is now a college student graduating. He plays rugby for his college team, and he also has represented the United States of America in the transplant games in South Africa and this coming summer in Spain. So pretty much I'm going to talk about why we should do organ transplants and why you should be a donor. So that's my brother and I. As you can see, that's after a rugby game, and that's at the transplant games in Cleveland this past summer. So let's talk about the need for organs in America. Today there are about 120,000 men, women, and children waiting for an organ. The organs are hearts, livers, kidneys, lung, pancreases, digestive tracts, eyes, bone marrow, and other tissues. Each person that donates their organs can save up to 8 lives. And if a person donates their corneas, they can restore 2 people's visions. And lastly, if a person donates their tissues, they can heal/save up to 50 lives. And that information is from HRSA, which is written in 2016. So next I want to talk about the reasons for transplants. So why do we need transplants? In my brother's case, he had organ failure, which is actually from picking up a virus that he picked up at a place like school or Walmart or anything. We don't know the cause of it. This can be caused from viruses, infections, trauma, and autoimmune diseases. Some diseases and disorders are as follows. This information is from Nolan and Augustine in 1995. So the liver problems can be primary biliary cirrhosis, biliary atresia, hepatitis, and malignant tumors. For the bone marrow, the reasons we need bone marrow transplants is leukemia, aplastic anemia, lymphomas. For hearts, like my brother, myocarditis, and ventricular and atrial dysfunction. And this next information is from Chatterjee and Vanderberg in 2016. For the lungs, it'd be cystic fibrosis, pulmonary hypertension, bronchitis, and lung failure. So now that we know the need for organs, let's talk about why we should be a donor. The statistics about organ transplants and donations should be enough. Like stated previously, 120,000 people are currently waiting for an organ. On average, 22 patients die each day waiting for an organ transplant, and they cannot take place because there's a shortage of donated organs. That information is from Ahmed in 2016. Every 10 minutes, another person is added to the organ transplant list, and 95% of Americans are for organ donation, but only 48% are actually registered, which is actually really bad. That information is also from HRSA. So another thing is genetics. Some patients inherit genetics that can cause complications in their organs, resulting in the need of a whole organ, a valve, or tissue. So I got tested to see if I had genetic problems, to see if maybe the heart transplant with my brother was from genetics, and I don't have it, and no one else in my family does, so it had to be viral. Many observations from recent studies offer strategies by which we can study, or we may search for genetic factors in heart diseases, and that's from Singh and Sklinick. Family members share their genes as well as their environment, lifestyles, and habits. A family health history helps identify people at increased risk for disease because it reflects both the person's genes and these offered shared risks. Other shared risk factors, and that's from Medical Test Sourcebooks in 2016. So maybe you decide to be a donor. How does the process even work? So there's a donation transplant requirements. The requirements in finding a viable donor for the patient are the same in both living and non-living donors. First, you can be a donor and still be alive. There's a lot of kidney transplants that you give one of your kidneys up and you are still alive and someone else now lives. Same with parts of your liver. So the recipients must have identical or compatible blood types to the donor. So your weight. The heart, lung, and liver recipients must be the same weight range as the donor to ensure comparable organ size. The status. The recipient awaiting heart or liver are given a priority status based on their acuity. So in my brother's case, he was very sick, like he was about to die, so he got put on the top of the list. Another thing is waiting time. Recipients gain points based on their length of time they have been waiting for their transplant. Also distance. The distance between the donor and the potential recipient is a factor for several organs because of the time restrictions and how soon the organ will still be okay to be used. And that information is from Nolan and Augustine in 1995. The organs are only used for the correct recipients. They will not be wasted on unviable recipients, and each organ is carefully screened for infectious diseases or anything that could be risking the safety of the recipient. So it sounds great that we're saving lives and everything, but some people do think differently. So on the opposing view, some people say religion is why they don't want to be a donor. Some say God is a plan for us and that transplants are obstructing his plan. Here's a quote: God-given faculties of reason and observation to overcome illness and heal the afflicted. So that's from VH in 2000. The body belongs to God is another reason why people believe that we shouldn't be organ donors. All of the official religious scholars in Egypt declared that organ donation is permissible in Islam, yet patients and family members continue to object out of religious sentiment, many of them insisting that we cannot donate what belongs to God, and that's from Hamdi in 2012. So another thing is people believe that minors should not be able to decide whether or not that they should donate their organs. So like when you turn 16, you can decide whether or not you want to donate your organs, but some people believe that's not okay because you're not technically 18. It is unlikely that a child will have formed an opinion in advance about organ procurement, but if a child has expressed revulsion or otherwise has objected, then the child's opinion should be taken into veto in the case of parental permission, which is from VH in 2012. Also, people don't believe that ill patients have the right or might not be in the right state of mind to decide what happens with their organs, so that's another reason. But yes, the opposing points make sense, but I don't believe that's a reason not to save a life. Recipients live their life to the fullest. My brother, he literally lives his life day by day, and we never know if he's gonna go back and need another transplant, so we always live our life to the fullest and let him go do whatever he needs to do. So literally he received the gift of life. It's a miracle. The United States of America celebrates these gifts biannually. There's a thing called the Donate Life Transplant Games of America, which we go to. So the Transplant Games is a festival in America for individuals who have undergone life-saving transplant surgeries. Competition events are open to living donors, organ transplant recipients, bone marrow, corneal, and tissue transplant recipients, and it's more than an athletic event. The Donate Transplant Life Games highlight the critical importance for organ, eye, and tissue donation while celebrating the lives of organ donors and recipients. The games are held in cities and states with low donation rates, and it is meant to help raise the awareness for organ donation. So up here you can see my brother traveled to South Africa 2 years ago and represented the USA, and they won a bronze in track. That's Team Wisconsin, and then that's just more of the games. This is from this past summer in Cleveland. Each team has pins and you trade them, so you get to talk and meet people and hear about their stories. So overall, I put this with community engagement because like you're literally getting involved with all these different communities and trying to raise the awareness of organ donation. So in conclusion, I really think that there isn't a reason to not donate your organs. I really hope that this information helps you go out and change your view on it and maybe apply to be a donor so you can save lives and like my brother's. So yeah.